Hello and welcome to our Saturday stream. This is the Fantasy Grounds map and image creation, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining me today. We're going to have a great show today. I'm super excited to showcase off some new stuff and lots of stuff to talk about here today. So it should be, as I said, I'm quite excited about it. As far as like the art related news, we have lots of great stuff that's going on in the test channel right now. And if anybody doesn't know how to get to the test channel, all you have to do is when you start up the initial Fantasy Grounds application, you get the updater. You just go into your settings, go to advanced, and at the bottom you'll see channel. You go onto test channel and then do an update, and you'll be able to test out all of these new features. So I would very much so recommend that everyone try this out. We certainly would like to have all of the feedback that we can possibly have, help find any bugs. We're probably going to run into some bugs today because we're going to be looking at all of the new tools today. But we're getting those taken care of right away. So a lot of great stuff around the corner. This month released for art packs, we're going to be releasing Medieval Machines as well as the third installment of the Industrial Modern art pack. And yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. So without too much further ado here, let's jump right into this. I'm going to start to showcase you some of the amazing new features that Carl has done for our painting tab in the image workspace. So I'm actually going to create a new image here. So we can just, I'm just going to right click and create a new item. I'm going to create a new record for us. And let's jump right in here. You're going to see a whole bunch of new features. And so I'm going to try and go slow here so I can really kind of explain all of this stuff. And because there's a lot. We're gonna try and cram all this into 3 hours today. Hopefully that it all works out. But we'll be back next week as well to kind of finish this stuff up if there's anything that we don't quite get to. I'm just going to call this a test image. And we're going to jump right over into our painting tab. And you're going to see that there is a whole bunch of new tools and lots of cool stuff. So before we get into doing any of the image stuff, I'm going to go through and I'm going to showcase off some of this stuff just with these fill elements. So what we have now, we have all of the same kind of tools that we had before. We have the rectangle, ellipse, line tool, and our stamp, and our eraser, but we also now have an edit fill button and an edit button. And this is, in addition to that, in all of these tabs here, we have, you can see that the stamp tool is got its own unique little interface here now. But all of this stuff now has a little swatches here. We have a fill element now, as well as the stroke element. And so we also have, there's just so much. So we'll kind of go through this, as I said, kind of slow here. And I'm just going to do this. Let's make this the fill element white. And I'm going to go back to the stroke here. And let's make this a color so that we can kind of see it here, right? And we'll go into, and you can see here that with all of these different elements, what we can actually do here. Let's see, why is the this? We want a color fill, that's why I had it on image. So just Control Z to undo that, and as I begin to pull out these shapes, you can see that we have this ability to fill in the element here. So we can do this with all of our, I've gone through and updated all of the art packs so that anything that wasn't a seamless texture is now what should be. So you can kind of fill this in as you can create things, and you can also do this all with images. We're going to be doing that here in a minute. But I want to kind of go through just with these elements to kind of demonstrate them and show you all of the cool new features that we have here. Lots of new keyboard shortcuts, and there's so much. So as we begin to fill in these elements here with this new fill feature, we can switch the overlap interaction here. And I'm actually going to, we can actually turn the grid on in a minute too, and I'll show you how we can kind of snap to the grid and do all kinds of really interesting and cool stuff. But with our initial, so we have a normal one, and what this actually does is each time that we do this with the normal, we're going to create a new fill element. So I can come in here, and we can interact with this so many different ways now. It's very, very interesting, but we can create all kinds of new elements along with this. I'm just going to Control Z those out of there, but we can now add to the shape of this. And what this is going to do is going to immediately create whatever stroke we're using and whatever fill element and add it together. And you're going to see how this works with the actual image textures. So that we can make these continuous. So if we're doing a dungeon or floors, buildings, whatnot, we can now create any shape that we wish with any sort of floor element and wall element all in one motion here. We can even do it with the different kind of elements here. So we can create rounded elements here. So we can do continually create new shapes as we drag this out and going back and forth here, as you can see here. And we also have now a subtraction method here where we can do exactly the same thing. We can even remove elements in the middle. And this also works with the ellipse tool, creating any shape that we wish. And then we have an intersect. So what the intersect is will be wherever there isn't something, it'll put it, and wherever there is something, it'll remove it. So here we have this moment over here. We can kind of, it's just going to intersect whatever section that we've done, eliminating the rest of it. And I'm just going to Control Z so we can go back to our shape here because I want to kind of demonstrate all of these different cool kind of elements here. Now, in addition to this, we have all kinds of different ways that we can interact with the corner system now. And as you can see here, this is a mitered corner. We can do rounded corner and, well, this is a bevel corner and a mitered corner, which will be a rigid kind of like squared off. We also have the ability to kind of interact with this even after we've done all of these adjustments here. And so, for example, I can go into my fill edit area here, and you're going to see there's a list of commands or keyboard shortcuts that we can kind of interact with. So now I can actually change the color of this, make sure that we have this selected. This might not work with the color fill. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, there it is. So you see there's going to be some bugs. It's going to, this didn't update immediately. I had to click on it to kind of do that, but you'll see that we need you guys to get in here and test all of this stuff out and show this. But I'm going to show you how we're going to be using all of these things. And we can even fade in the elements from the side here. But if we go into our edit, what we can actually do is see all of the little points that we've created in this, and we can still move these around. Well, that's not. This is going to. Let's open this up again here. What did we call that? Test image? Yeah, there it is. You can see now everything is updated here. So there is a little bit of wonkiness, but we're gonna kind of go through this. But here you can see we can move these elements around. You can see I'm going to close this down and open it. Sometimes it needs to. You can see it's actually moved. It's just not updating immediately for us, which normally it does. So we'll. The first time I've run into this particular issue. So of course it's going to happen during the stream. But as I said, we're going to have a couple of bugs here, but they're going to all get squashed out, and we can kind of continue on here. What you'll also notice here is we have a sample settings from Painted Object, a new kind of eyedropper tool. So we can click on this. It's going to collect all of the information that is done in this particular painted fill object, and it's going to reload it for us so that we can continue to interact with this system. And that's not going to work because I have it on the line tool, but you can see we can start to re-interact with the system itself. So let's look at some of the, and it should be noted that you can only add into an image if you have exactly the same kind of settings as you had previously. It needs to have the same corner type, the same fill and stroke element, and then it'll all add those images together. But let's look at some other things. I'm going to change the colors of this stuff. So let's go maybe something like this for our stroke line. And let's go to the fill amount. Let's make it like purple. And let's change the corner type here. And I'm actually going to make the circle we're going to be using here a bit larger so we can kind of see the different types of corners. So here you can see we have this nice beveled element here. Here is the rounded, and this is like how it was in the previous painting elements here. And then we can switch it to the miter, which you'll see is a nice clean squared off edge there. We have different elements there. We also have different types of these end caps for when we're doing just line tools. So you can see now that everything has become just the line tool here. And we can now do different types of rounding and projecting. So what this will do, for example, is when we draw out a line here, see, it's going to round out our edges, where this will be the way that it was previously. And then projecting will go out a little bit further and fill up the actual area that we're working in. We also have a lot of cool new tools, and I'm gonna show you some of this stuff. Let's turn on our grid system here. You can see that these are all quite large. I'm going to delete this layer, and we'll create a new painting layer. I'm going to leave, I'll lower down the opacity of this a little bit for us so we can kind of see it, but I want to make sure that we can kind of see the grid system here. Because now what we can do is when we hold down Control, we're going to snap to our grid. And we can do this with all of these elements here. So let's go back and let's add in our fill once again. And I'm going to make the, and we'll also look at the fade and the shadows here in a moment, but we'll kind of go through this step by step. And if I do anything, or if you guys have any questions, please. Oh yes, it works completely with textures. We're going to get into the actual using images here in a moment as soon as we get through just kind of demonstrating all of the different tools here. And we're going to make a map with this, and I'll show you guys how quickly and easily we can kind of put this stuff together. So holding down Control now, you can see, and this is going to, because it's a fill element that we have going, so you can't create a single line anymore. You can see that I have made this little point in here, but we're going to take that right out. We can now interact with the system lots of different ways here. So I'm going to hold down Control, and now I can snap this out into all of these areas here. You can see I can completely fill this. I've made this a one square element here. And I can add to this. So let's say if I wanted to add out another little element here, and I can say, oh, well, I wanted this to be inside of there, so I can switch over and we can move this over. And this is not going to update in real time for me right now, which I've never had a problem with this before, but we'll see here. And if I close this and open it back up, you'll see that it has actually updated. It's just, for some reason, not going through that particular process. It could be something to do with the not using an image element. Normally, what we can do, and if to get right back to it, I can just use this, and it'll reset all of those parameters that I had previously by using this. So when we're working with something, we can kind of jump in and do that as well. And I can do the same thing with the subtract. So I can come over here, and I don't want to do it with the line tool. I want it to. So I'm going to hold down Control, and I can kind of fill in this area and remove exactly what I want to do. I can even do it in the middle here. And so lots of really, really cool kind of stuff. And so we can interact with this system in a multitude of different ways. And really the edit fill section isn't really going to come into complete usage here. But until we start to use some of the textures, because you're going to see how you can kind of manipulate these around, you're not going to really see it from this kind of perspective. But let's kind of go through all of these. So we can now do a drop shadow on our stroke element here. So we'll do a drop shadow of 2. And this is all going to be based off of the grid system, just like all of the other tools are. So you can see what this will do is it'll automatically create, and I'm on the subtract, so that's why I didn't make an actual image there. You can see it's going to actually make a little drop shadow of whatever we're using for our stroke element. We can also use fade in here. So let's do a fade of like 0.5. And we'll pull out another one over here. And what this will do is fade in the edges of whatever we're actually working with. And we can do this, and this has a completely separate parameters from our fill, which has the ability to do exactly the same thing. So we can do a fade. Let's do a fade of something like 3, for example. And I'll switch over to the ellipse tool. And again, we'll just pull out this, and you can see that we have this nice fade that we can do from all of these different elements. And so we can now create lots of different interactive kind of surfaces that we can now quickly and easily with a single texture not have to stamp out lots of different images anymore. We'll be able to do this very fast. You'll see how you can use this to create lakes and ponds and all kinds of things. And then we can even add to this. So all of this is very easily editable. And again, we can come back in and move these around, and usually this all updates in real time. So you can see how the interaction kind of goes. For some reason right now it is not, but you can also select all of these individually, or if you double click, it'll select everything that is connected together. Yeah, we're going to switch over to a texture here in a moment, actual image stuff. If I close this and reopen it, you'll see that it does actually update, but for some reason right now it's not updating in real time. Perhaps when we make a new element here and we switch over to our image textures, you'll kind of see how this works. So we can remove points. So if I come in here and we can even, if we create something very complex, let's do that actually. And I'll kind of change this around. Let's do another fill. We'll do white, and we won't do black because we have a dark background here. So maybe we'll do green again. And I'm going to use the line tool here, and I'm going to just draw out like in whatever shape that I want. And here we can switch back over, and you can see we have a lot of different kind of elements here. So I'm going to double click and select all of them. Now what I can actually do is simplify the selected strokes, and this is going to simplify that shape while trying to maintain its integrity. We have a lot less things here. Now from here I can immediately create all of my walls and whatnot by clicking on this button, which would allow me to, you have to select these first though, and you can see that this will duplicate all of that as actual walls. You can still do it from the this area in through here, but you can now have access to it right from your painting area, and you can be specific about not the entire layer, but just the elements that you wish. And so I'm just going to delete that really quickly, and we'll kind of look at some of these other elements here. Some of these won't really make a whole lot of sense until we get into using it with textures. But I'm going to close this down. Let's create a new workspace here. Test image 2 here. And jump right into our painting tools here. And then let's open up our assets. And I'm just going to, in case I have another kind of problem with it updating in real time, I'm just going to drag and drop this down here so I can kind of quickly interact with it. And you can see anything that you've created previously will automatically get updated. So work with this system. So for example, if we were to jump into the this dungeon element here, you can see everything is just like we had made previously. But if we jump over into our painting tools, you can now see that you have access to all of these elements here. So if I go to my walls, for example, I would be able to come in here and rechange these walls around. But again, it's not working real time here. Let's see if we can. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's jump into creating this new. Let's create an outdoor environment, and I can show you, or we could even do. I'll show you the power of how this is going to kind of work here. Let's kind of go through this step by step in a really kind of cool way. Let's go into the regional map pack here. And we had previously kind of gone over some of the regional stuff and how to make lots of different islands and that kind of thing. But now it's going to be so easy. Let's go into the old world regional map here. That's kind of a good one to use. And here we have our background. We can now use this as a texture in the fill element. So what I'll do is I'll actually bring out, I think there's a blank, water blank here. And I'll just kind of pull this out and we'll put it right here. And make sure that our lighting is turned off so that we can interact with the system without having to worry about that too much. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size of this. So let's make this like 25 by 25. And now go into our painting tools. I'll go into this background element here. I'm going to turn off the stroke. And I'm going to add this as my fill element. And now what I can actually do here, we can do this a few different ways. But let's turn on our grid so that we can kind of line everything up here and use that grid system to help us snap to everything and do it all together here. I'm going to go into my rectangle and I'm going to just start to build out here a piece of land. And so I'm going to hold down Control and I'm going to just drag out some land here. Maybe we'll do it like here. And then I can switch over to my line tool and switch over to subtract, or I could even do it with some other different elements here. And then I can start to select out all of these different shapes that I want. I could even start to build in little areas and now what I can do is I can go to the add tool, or I could even create new additional kind of elements here. And with this, I could start to build out little islands. Now, as I said, the way that this works is all based on our grid system. So if you want to have more accuracy, you just do a smaller grid. But this is going to be great for our demonstration purposes here. And now we can switch back over and we can look at this. Oh, we can actually still interact with it in our layers tab. So this is still just a regular painted layer. We can move this around. We could even change its size here if we so wanted. And all of the same kind of interactions that we had before. Let's go into the Edit tab. You can see we have a lot of different elements here. And so I can double click on this, for example, and we can simplify that. And the same here. Or we can actually do all of this at once. And now when we go into our fill element here, you can see what I can actually do is drag this around. And I can even interact with it with Shift and mouse wheel will rotate the image. And usually this updates all in real time, but this seems to be a little bit wonky for me right now. Let me close this down and reopen it and see if we can get this to function as it normally does for me. Nope, it's not going to. Let's create a new image here. So what I can actually do is go into my painting elements. And I can grab this and I can just select that and you can see what it's going to do. I'm not sure why that's rotated. Oh, it's because it's rotated here. I'm just going to reset that. But what I can actually do is still use it as a fill element. Let's create a new painting layer and maybe I can get this function time here for us. No, it's not going to do it. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to restart Fantasy Grounds really quickly and see if I can get this all functioning as I want you guys to be able to see it here. But this stuff is so exciting. I've been having so much fun making maps with it. It is absolutely amazing. Alrighty. So now with this selected, let's see if we can, yeah, here we go. So as you can see, we can just rotate this around. We can interact with it lots of different ways here. And we can even come into this one and do the same here. And now we should be able to go over and begin to manipulate this all in real time. Change these around, all of these different shapes. Any way that we want to. Switching back over into the fill area, so maybe I want to fade this out after the fact or even change its color. So you can see I can move this around, and if I hold shift in the mouse wheel, I can actually rotate the image inside of here. If I hold control, I can actually scale the fill element after it's been placed. I can hold down R, G, and B, and I can actually change all of the parameters even after that I've placed it. And you can see that if we have different images, these are not connected in any way. So these can be interacted with completely separately. And I can even hold down F and use my mouse wheel, and I can fade out the edges of this. So very, very cool stuff. And we can even do the same with this particular painting area over here. We can change this shape in any way that we want to. We can remove strokes so that we, or points. So you can see how powerful these new tools are going to be for the creation of all of this kind of stuff. So for example, if I wanted to create different types of elements in through here, I can come back in and use this in combination with all of the different stuff that I want to do. We also have in the new effects layer, we can create a mask using these fill elements. So for example, if I just click on this, this will create an effects layer that is masked exactly to the shape that we have created in that fill element. So if we switch it over to, let's say, I'll just do something that that will kind of demonstrate this. So as you can see, that this is a perfect mask to this. So what we can do is when we create like water elements and whatnot with this, we can instantly create a mask very quickly to add that all. We can still interact with this system too. We can still add in other elements manually as well. But this is another great way that we can kind of deal with all of these elements again. And you can see we can kind of blur this out. And so this is like a great way that we can create these cool little elements around. So let's do a demonstration here of I'm just going to delete all of this stuff, and we'll start over here. We're gonna go into our assets here, and let's do an outdoor environment. So I'm just going to use the 2019 art pack. And so one of the great things that we can use are these tiles to create different types of elements and whatnot, especially like the water elements that we want to do. And we can go into our backgrounds here, and I'm just going to grab out one of these kind of like base elements here, and we'll kind of build it up from here. I'm going to go into the tab here. We're going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's make it 25 by 25 so we have a little bit of room to work. Now what I could also do is I can use this as a texture, and I can draw it out to any shape I wish, but this will just be an easy way for us to get going. And I'm going to go into the tiles here, and we can grab like this grass, for example. And I'm going to turn off my stroke for right now, and let's move it over to the fill element here. And let's say I want to start to create some grassy kind of patches here. And I might want to do a fade of maybe something like 0.5 to start off with. But as you can see, I can start to draw out nice grass patches. Now let's say I want to add to an element here, so I can come in and I can add to this, and you can see that this makes it part of the same piece here. Maybe I want to bring this down and around here. And that's all one element now. And if I go into my edit fill layers, you can see I can move these around, and I can rotate this. If there are particular little areas that I want to have, and this is going to open up a whole new world for us as far as like what textures we can use and how we can kind of interact with these new tools. One thing that I haven't demonstrated yet is the eraser, but the eraser works completely with this entire system. So let's, I'm going to go over into the edit fill. You can see we have a lot of elements here. So I'm just going to select them all. And we're going to simplify those strokes to make it a lot easier for us. And you can see I can still move this stuff around. So if there is some areas that I want it to be a little bit different, I can just do this. I can even go into here, and let's say I want this to be a little bit more faded on the edge here. I can do that, holding down F and using my mouse wheel. Now let's go into the coastal map pack here. Here we have water brushes for like shores and whatnot. So let's create a new element over here. And I'm going to do this on a separate layer just so that we have a little bit of ability to kind of jump back and forth here. Go into the tool here, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to switch over, add this element in here. And I'm going to go into, I believe it's backgrounds, yeah, and I'm going to switch my fill out to this one. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this circle tool, and I'm going to make a normal amount here. And so I'm just going to drag out a circle here. And you can say, oh, whoops, this is on the going in the wrong direction, but that's okay. We can now go into here, and I can select this point, and I can actually reverse the selected points. So now it's going to go in the correct direction. I can even double click on this and I can move this entire thing around right in this new window. And let's go back. Let's add to this shape here a little bit. So I'm going to go into the add. And I think that we're going to need to flip this for this to work properly, but maybe not. This might not add because it might be a little bit different here, but we'll see. Yeah, so this is not going to add together, but it would if they are all the same. You can see there's a little bit of weird interaction there. So let me just come back in here. I'm just going to double click on, this is all one element now, but I can actually, if I want to, I can come in here and select all of these. And we can actually delete these. And this is going to delete all of this stuff here. There's still a couple of little bugs and whatnot that still need to work out. I'm not sure which one there I should select, so let's select these ones. This one. And we'll fix this up a little bit. And then we can go back into here, and I can start to draw out some different kind of elements here. We'll make this nice like shape. See how easily we can now do this? This would have been much more difficult in the old system. And if I want to have this a little bit more faded on the outside edge here, right? What I can actually do is maybe we'll fade this out like 1. And this will not add to this same image, but I'll show you how this kind of works out here. And we can even add to it. See that it's going to blend in a lot better there. And we can go into our edit mode, right? And we can actually change some of this stuff. So if we want to, we can come back in here and interact with this system. Get these lined up where they're supposed to be here. We can grab a group of elements, move them around, get things kind of where we want them to be. Again, we can come back in here and we can move this around. We can rotate it. We can change its scale. Kind of match what we want to do. And we can still come into our stamp tool, right? And we can go into our effects. We can still use all of these elements just like we did before. And here, let me, I'm going to hold down A and lower that down. Kind of stamp these in, little like water elements around. For this like foam and whatnot. But now what we can actually do is we can go back into here and now we can actually move these. Let me just grab that. Interacting with this system after the fact. I could even delete an item right from here, just hitting delete on my keyboard. Hey Bryce, we're actually just we're demonstrating the new art tools, the new painting tools that are in the test channel. Very, very cool stuff. Now let's look at what happens when we use our eraser on these elements. So now we have our eraser set up here. You can see everything kind of gets now updated as to what we can actually do. So, but our eraser works completely with all of these things. I'm going to make this eraser a little bit bigger. But look, we can erase an element out here. We can erase right through it. Make that a little bit wider here. See that there's a couple of bugs here. So let's close that down and we'll reopen it here. Get this. Yep. So you can see we've created a whole bunch of different elements here. You can see that this is still a little bit wonky, but as I said, it's still just a work in progress here. We're in beta right now, and that's why we need you guys to get in there and test it out, all of this by these strokes. That makes this interaction a little bit easier here. This is actually a really good kind of demonstration on. So what we can actually do now is create these puddles around. I can hold down A and I can change the alpha even after the fact. Going into these elements, we could grab our painting tool, our little eyedropper tool. That's going to load that right back up as it was before. And if we want to turn the stroke off here, and let's increase that a little bit. Let's do like 2. And we'll create a new painting layer. See, now that's come back. So there's a little bit of stuff that happens irregularly, but as we kind of progress here, it'll all get fixed. But you can see here I can start to drag out these little elements. And I can come back in here and we could move this around, maybe make this a little bit of a different shape. And I can double click this and I can move this wherever I want to. And I can still come in here and I can use all of these elements as well, right? So I can play with its size here. I can even rotate it. For some reason that's over there, so we can do it where we're supposed to do it. And we can then go back into our painting tools here and we can further manipulate it. So there's just lots and lots that you guys can do now in all of this creation process. You can even do it with particular elements that you might not think about, right? So I was playing around with it the other day, and I'm going to type in rocks. And there are these, maybe something like, I think like these kind of elements. And we can drag something like this in. I'm actually going to switch my stroke over here to this for a moment so that I just get a little pointer. But as we can do here, we can drag out elements like this as well. And maybe do a couple layered elements here. And as it's a fill layer now, I can come back in and I can change the size of these. I can even come in here and we can double click this and maybe move around. Quickly create like debris areas. And maybe I will change the rotation and size. And I can even fade the edges out more or less. A little bit bigger ones. So tons and tons of cool stuff that we can do now. Let's show off some of the new ways that we can. Let's go into the dungeon art pack actually. And here is a good example of how you can use this to create places really fast here. Let's switch this over to our We'll use this wall. And we'll go into our floors. We'll grab one of these floors, maybe this one. We'll switch to fill element here. And we're going to create a new element here. Let's do a mitered wall here, which is going to give us some nice clean corners. We can still do rounded and whatnot. So over here, let's create a new painting layer. And I'm just going to I'm going to hold down Control so that I'm going to snap to this. Oh, I still have all this fade on. Control Z. Let's turn this off. Let's put that back to 0. And this one back to 0. I'm going to hold down Control and start to pull this stuff out. You can see here we've instantly created this little area in through here. I can switch to Add now, and let's start to build out these areas as well. And maybe we want to make that a little bit thicker, so we can just this any way that we want to. Maybe we'll build out another room over here. And maybe we want to add a circular element down here, so we can do that. And if I hold down Shift and Control, it'll maintain a really nice, perfect circle. And perhaps I want to let's do something over here like this. We'll create an element here, and I'm going to do another like big room here. And then I'll actually go to my subtract, and I'm going to take out a section in the middle. And then we can build this off. You can see how quickly you can start to build up this stuff, which we never could in the previous. It would have been much a longer process. And likewise, we can come into the edit fill area over here, right? And we can still interact with this. So maybe we want the floor to be a little bit darker. I can hold down R, G, and B, and I can use my mouse wheel to darken up that floor a little bit. Get a little bit more separation. I can come into my edit area over here, and if I want to move some of the stuff around, I can. And I can hold down Control, and it will snap to the grid. So maybe I want to make this a little bit more over a little bit, even after I've done it. And I can just kind of do this. Make this a little bit more symmetrical. Or maybe I want to change the way that this interacts, and I can do this really easily. And we can come into any of these elements that we want to interact with, even after the point. So even coming back and reworking on this will be a breeze. Now with we can duplicate the entire layer or just the selection as wall. So we could double click on this and push the button, and it will generate all of those walls for us. Oh, look, there's a little bit of a bug there. As you can see, there's a little bit of a wonkiness there. And so now we can go back into our painting elements here and do all of the same kind of interaction that we would previously do. And so in this kind of circumstance as well, we have the actions, all of the same actions that we had before. We just have tons of new ways to interact with the system and much more automated and lots of cool ways that we can kind of do. So for example, we can duplicate this. And if we go into our layers tab here, I'm just going to move this over. And maybe we want to flip it. So you can do tons and tons of stuff. And maybe we want to change this side a little bit so we can go back into our tabs over here. Maybe I'm going to hold down Control and maybe this out a little bit. Down here. But maybe I want to go into here and change the color of the floor here again. So maybe I'll make it a little bit more green. Maybe I want to change the scaling of this. So all I have to do is hold down Control and use my mouse wheel. And the other great thing about the way that this system works, let's turn off our stroke for a moment. And I'm going to change it to this fill. And let's drag out this a little bit here. So I'm just maybe I just want this fire pit in the middle here. Switch over here and move this to where I want. And I can fade out those edges. Maybe something like this. And I could either use my eraser tool to kind of erase back these elements. Oh, see, here's a bug. But I can still kind of interact with that system. And if I close this and open it, I think it should go back to where it should. So we can switch over. And if I want to change that fill amount, and so you can see we can now kind of remove elements. And I could actually we can change that to be, as you can see right there. We can just switch over to the subtract element here. And you can see that this is going to be a little bit wonky. Like this. But if we close the program and restart it here, it'll be back to where it was. As I say, we're going to run into a couple of bugs as we do this. And this is all available as a beta right now in the test channel. So I would thoroughly suggest that you guys get in there, start testing, and report any bugs that you find so that we can make this the best map making system out there. I have it down here. You can see it's back to where it should have been. And you can see here I can still interact with this system. I'm going to switch over here and we can go to subtract, and now I can track these kind of the way that I wanted to before. Let's go into here. I can see that there's a lot of strangeness going on here. Let's delete some of this stuff. And let's double click that and simplify it. Get rid of all of that stuff. And we can delete that. And we can move this where we want to. And then what I can do is I can actually delete that point. Close this in. Do a pretty good job of getting pretty close to where I want it to be. As far as just kind of using that one image that's in the middle there. And what I can do is I can jump over into my fill, and I can hold down F, and I can just fade out that rest of the way. You can see you can actually take parts of images. So you could do that even with other maps and whatnot, and just use part of a map now in another image. Which is very, very cool. Right, so let's actually build a little area here. We can kind of go through this whole process, and you can see that all of this stuff that we have previously made. And maybe if we go into one of these other elements, we can still go back in and change all of those things. So the question is, can you put lights and effects layers in fill layers? So if I'm understanding it correctly, and let me just reopen this image. Are you saying can you go on to a painting layer and go into the lighting and add a light? Because it's still just a regular painting layer. But one of the things that you can do now is create a mask for an effects layer. So if we are on this painting layer here, and we can go into our effects and we can use that as a mask. So immediately we'll create something. If we do clouds, you can see it's just going to be a perfect mask to, and it's just the fill as well. It doesn't take into account the size of the stroke, just the fill element. Yeah, so lots and lots of cool stuff. So, for example, all of these elements that we've done over here, I think that there's this one and there's these ones, for example. So what we can do now is we can create a new one here, and then we can make this water. You can see that's going to make a perfect mask for all of the water that we've created. Because it doesn't take into account the shore here, right? Like we don't have to worry about that. It does it instantly for us. So the speed at which once all of the minor bugs are kind of squashed, you guys will be able to see how unbelievably quick and seamlessly you guys will be able to create your images. And you can always come back in after the fact. And this is one of the great things. If we decided that we wanted to change the color of this water, for example, we got to make sure that we are on the correct layer here. Is it this one? That's the one down there. So this one. We can I can darken this up a little bit, make this feel like it's a little bit deeper in there. I can still change this. I can still interact with this. So there's a limitless amount of constant activity that we can kind of do, changing dynamically our maps after the fact now. In the previous system, as we painted into these particular areas, it was kind of set in stone. But we can always, and I can always come in here and change all of these points around and do all of that stuff. As you can see, right now, like these ones don't seem to be little stamps that we had done showing up. But let's actually build an environment, and we can kind of use all of this different stuff together. Or I can actually show you too that you can go back in now, and ones that you had previously made, for example, you can do like maybe this one. Let's do something that's a little bit more complex and see how. This is a map that we had made previously with lots of these cool image elements. And you can see that this is this jungle cliff here with a little bit of snowy stuff on top. But what we can do now is switching over into our tabs here. We have all of these different elements. Remember, we also made a cave, and this is pretty jagged looking. So let's go into our cave here, and we can see all of our walls and do all of our different stuff. So if we switch over into these elements, and as we look at the all of the different painted elements that we have here, all of them and all of the points that kind of interact with them. So I can come back in and change this now. Let's look at the cave walls here. So the cave walls is all of this fill element. We don't need to stamp all of this stuff anymore. We can actually fill this now with a single kind of thing. But we can change these shapes now. So I can make this a little bit more rounded around here if I want to. And even though that we have some painted in shadows here, I can come back and move those as well. And even though that there's no fill elements in here, so I can't really interact with the fill edit, I can move around and I can do all of these different stuff in all of the different ways. So we have cliff and above, for example. We go into these areas here. I can grab these particular elements. Not sure what that, like the trees, for example. I can grab the tree and I can move it now, changing it dynamically to wherever I wish. And here's our snow elements down here, right? And each one of these are just these little painted stamps. So I don't have to worry too much about where I place things when I place them. I can just kind of come in and do them after the fact. I can move them wherever I wish. So the system is going to greatly enhance everything that we do here. Now let's jump in and we can create a new environment and use some of these new techniques here. I'll create a new image here. And let's do an outdoor environment where we can build that stuff up and create all of those elements using some of these new techniques and features. Let's go into our, I'm just going to delete this one and we'll just drag this guy down in there. We'll call this one, what kind of environment should we make here? Anybody have any sort of suggestions? Anything that we should, let's do an outdoor environment. We'll be using some of these new tools and we'll see if we can't make this in a pretty short amount of time. Oh, we could do a post-apocalyptic village area. Let's do that. We can use the abandoned places. Now what I'll actually do is I'm going to switch over to my grid here and I'm just going to type in, I'm going to make it 100 by 100 to begin with, but we can change this to have more control over all of that stuff. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to go into one of these art packs. I don't know if the abandoned places has any like background images, but let's check. I don't think there's any like dirt elements here. We'll go into, let's just grab one from 2019 art package, and I'll grab one of these backgrounds. And actually what I'm going to do, I believe that this is seamless. It might not be. I think that I've updated all of these to be, but we'll find out here. I'm going to grab this dark earth, and I'm going to turn off this line. One of the other things that I'll show you guys in doing this is that you can now create your own elements here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold down Control, or we don't even have to. I'm just going to drag out a nice big section here for us to work on. You can see it's a little bit wonky in certain areas here. I'm going to go over and I can kind of move this around, and I'm just going to maybe rotate it a little bit and change the scaling on it. And we can, if we want to make this exactly adhere to the grid, now I can just grab this corner and I can hold down Control and snap it right around here. And now we have this nice big area, very easily done to create a starting section for us. I'm going to do all of this stuff on one layer here. And so what I can do now is I have so many different options by which to interact with this system. Right? I'm going to go into one of these tiles, and I'm going to grab like this lighter earth and this one. I can even use elements like this, right? So let's actually use that. So what I can actually do now is go back into, let's do a rounded one, or I could even use the line tool here. And I'm going to switch out the fill here. And let's use the line tool. And I'm actually going to, you can either use the line tool and drag out particular elements, right, like in angular motions, or you can just hold down the mouse button, kind of draw freely. So I can start to draw out elements, something like this. Now I can kind of move this around, and I'm going to scale this, maybe rotate it a little bit. Now that looks pretty contrived, a little bit too much for my taste. So what I'll do is I'm just going to actually go into the area over here, and I'm just going to double click this and hit delete. Now we can come back in, and now we can do something similar though. I think what we'll do is let's grab this like this, and we'll add a fade to it, and we'll do something like 2. And now I can start to draw out and you can see that there's going to be a little bit, but that's because that there are so many of these lines. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to and I can come back in and I can start to draw in all of these little elements. And this is pretty you could use this, for example, start to do like roadways and paths, and I'm going to start to draw out another element over here. And again, I'm just going to simplify this. And we can move this around, change the shape of it. And I can come in back into the edit fill area over here. And now holding down A, I'm actually going to just fade this out a little. And I can do the same right over here. Changing its color and all of those things. I'm going to drop down the opacity of my grid as well. So I can still kind of see it, use it to line things up, but it's not going to interfere as much. Back into the painting area, I'm just going to use the ellipse this time, and I'm going to grab some grass patches here. I'm going to add these right over the top. So something like this, and I'm actually going to add to it. See, that is would be a bug right there. So let's close that down and reopen it, and hopefully it'll be might need to restart in order for that to work here. You can see all of that information is still there. Now it's water. Now it's rocks. Going through all of the different things that we have used previously. Isn't that interesting? Here, let me start Fantasy Grounds really quickly. As you can see, it's in beta. We're going to run into these bugs. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It should be fixed. It's I believe it's just has to do with it's not the actual metadata that's in the background that Fantasy Grounds uses to determine all of that stuff. I believe it's just a rendering issue. So when we open it back up, oh, I guess it is permanently as this is now, and it's also probably because we're using it all on one layer. So what we can do is I can just kind of come in here and delete these. Oh, see, there it is. Now if I hit Control Z, maybe these are underneath. Ah, yeah, look. How very bizarre. Well, we're pushing really hard to get it done as quickly as possible. So, um, what I would assume is as soon as it gets to once we get all of the bugs squashed, so the quicker we can kind of move through and figure out what causes certain particular types of issues, then the sooner it will be released. So hopefully, we're hoping for the next short amount of time here. I don't think we need these elements in through here. Let's see what happens when we delete these. And let's just very interesting. Well, we can go into our assets again, rebuild this really quickly, and I'll separate it from layers from now on. We'll keep things nice and simple. But what I can do is let's go back into the 2019 art package. I'm just going to grab this background again. I'm just going to drag and drop it out this time. And we'll just make it quite a bit bigger here. And I'll drop it down in underneath. And so what I can do is, before we were limited, right, to moving a layer all by itself. Now what we can do is we can go into our painting area and I can just grab this. Or I can just grab this element and move it. And I can even duplicate this. And maybe we'll come in here and we can rotate this. And I can go back in. And maybe I don't want this particular element, so I can delete it. And I just want this. And I can move it over here. And I can change its shape. And even though it's a duplicate of the previous layer, you can change it in such a way that it looks like something all on its own. We might even want to kind of create these shapes like this. And then we can come up into, let's go into our abandoned places here. And here we have a whole bunch of different brushes for like walls and whatnot. And there's two different abandoned places. This is the first one. The second one I think is, or maybe is there two or three? Two. The second one is mainly just decorations. We do have a bunch of brushes that are for additional walls and whatnot. And we have some tiles here for different concrete elements and roads. But the meat of this one is all of these decorations. And in the first one, we have all of the base kind of elements here. We have a lot but in these tiles, we can actually do is grab some of these like concrete elements, maybe like this one, and we'll create a new painting layer here. And I'll show you kind of what you can do now with using the line stroke here. I'm actually going to make this not quite black. Make it, I think we'll do 10 across the board here. Or maybe something a little bit lighter than black. And I'll show you kind of what you can do with something along these lines. So let's grab a fill element maybe like this. And I'm going to be using this rectangle tool, and I'll hold down Control, and I can start to create any sort of shape that I want to. Maybe if I'm building out or trying to create ruins and whatnot, then I can switch over to the add, and maybe I'll drag this out. And maybe I don't want this to seem so rigid, right? I want to change some of these parameters. I certainly can. I can even go into here and just kind of change the shapes of these. I can even come into back into this rectangle, and I can go into the subtract mode here. I can do it with my line tool. And what I can do is I can start to subtract out, create this feeling that it's broken, maybe even on this edge too. Maybe even along the wall itself. And now I can actually switch over and maybe do some little pieces flying about. Again, I can always come back in and I can change this if I want a particular element. Maybe I want to have it here or there. Change the scale of it. Rotation. Same with each. And so maybe what I'll do is create another here. And again, I can switch back over. I think we'll go to the traction mode here. And if I hold down Control while I'm doing that, it'll snap to the grid as well. I don't want to do that. Maybe it's this. And perhaps I'll grab maybe something Let's look at the other art package. Maybe something like this. And I'll turn the stroke off maybe. Later we'll put this underneath. And we can make some floor. Oh, I'm on Subtract. And maybe what we want to do is fade out the edges here a little bit. You know what we should do? Let's get rid of that. Let's change our rounded corners here. Maybe that doesn't work with the fill element. Maybe with the stroke itself. We'll add out a couple of parts like this. And again, we can switch over to the line tool and go to Subtract. And we'll rough this up a little bit. Don't want it to be too square. And I'll go in here, hold a F, and we can kind of fade out those edges. Seem as though like the dirt has kind of like crept in. We can still go into our stamps. And so let's grab like some debris or whatnot that we might want to be placing around. So I'll go back into the 2019 art package. And I'm going to go into decorations here. And I'm going to grab like this. I'm just going to start to stamp this around a little. Now the cool thing about this now is I can come back into here now. I think I'll actually simplify that. I can grab these individual pieces and I can move them around. And I can even change the shape of. Now let's go into back into our shapes here. And let's say I want to do some more of this stuff. All I have to do is grab this and boom, it's going to set that all up for me. I don't have to look through anymore, find those elements. And maybe I'll create a new little thing down here. And maybe I want to do some more of this. So I'm going to grab this and I can select that again. You can see it's got the fade already all worked out for me. You can see that the our little stamped guys just appeared, but hopefully they'll come back. We can go to Subtract, and we can start to remove elements like this. And I can even come in here and we can maybe fade this out a little bit. And maybe lower down the alpha of it. And if there's something that I do that I don't quite like, oh, those are the those are the actual stamped elements. But I'm going to grab this. I'll simplify it. And I'm just going to grab this and drop it down here. Can't. Those little images back. That has the texture on there. But now what we can actually do is, remember before we were using lots of images and whatnot to paint out shadows, for example. I'm going to use the stroke here. And let's, I'm just going to add in a little bit of blue to this, like this. And let's make this something like 3 with a fade of 2. And now, as I paint this out, I'm going to do a rounded edge here. See that I can actually like paint out something that's kind of like a shadow here. And I'll lower down my alpha here. Let's do it on a new layer. And this is a little bit wonky here on the edge. Seems. It's just not sure why that's like that. But. And we can still come in here and lower down the opacity of the entire thing here. Now we can match up all of this stuff like we would before, but we have just so much more control. Let's change the end type. And maybe we'll make that a little bit darker. I think we'll probably just get rid of that section and we'll just put that in a different. You can see this is all just being done without any image. It's just the regular paint tool. And we don't have to be precise anymore. We can come back in and change it. Maybe we want to do that at a little bit of an angle. Same here. When we close the program and restart it, this should fix the texture that's there. But if we go back into, there's lots of like debris and whatnot inside of these abandoned art packs. maybe in the second one, but there's a lot of these type of elements as well, where these kind of like rocks and things are. But as we were doing before, let's turn our stroke off and switch to our fill here. I think we'll use this one. And we can go down onto this painting layer here, start to draw out kind of elements. Make that a little bit bigger. Fade that off. I'll make a new painting layer to avoid any further issues with that. Okay. Isn't that interesting? And we'll fade that off a little bit more too. Change these shapes. And one of the things I really enjoy about this system, for example, so if we go back to this layer where we have the actual walls here, I can always come back in and reassess this. Right? We have all of this information here. We can always come in and change this. No longer a static kind of environment. And we can see we have all of this stuff here, but we can simplify that. If that's too much, we can just hit Control Z and go right back to the way it was, and you kind of do this manually if you wished. Or we could even come in and do some more subtraction on it. And I can grab this and we'll should get back to where it was. Yep. So with my subtraction, I could maybe, I didn't want to do that. I want to be in subtraction mode. Always continually interact with the system. If I want to make this a little narrower, not quite so thick. You can see there we just got interesting interactions, changing textures. Now I can go into the shadow area here and adjust the we'll delete that one. Let's do lower down that a little. Hmm. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick break here and refreshen my beverages. So if you guys want to hang out, I'll be right back and we can go through, finish up doing some stuff in through here and add in some of the other types of elements. So just hang out and I will be right back. All right, and we're back. Gonna dive into some more of this these new tools and continue on this little map that we're creating here. And I'm just gonna start naming some of these layers so that we have a better understanding about what's going on. Shadow layer, all of our, I guess we'll call this ruins. And this is all of our 3, 4s, and so on. And we can create a new folder. All that stuff. I think what we can do is use a color fill here for shadows as well. And we can fade out the edges. But the cool thing about doing it this way, in addition, I think, what we can actually do is kind of be more precise with it and then do it after the fact. So I could do this, for example. No stroke. Let's do not going to what have I done? How very curious. Here we go. I think we can add a fade to it after the fact. Try something out here. I'll do it on a new layer here. And what we can actually do is come in here and this out. Oh, I put a stroke on it. And we can lower down the alpha of it. And what we can actually do is come in here and change the parameters of it. Erase piece, add piece. And we can jump over our rectangle actually do now grab this and make all of those adjustments. Now it's going to pick up the fade that's been used on it as well as the actual self. And then you can actually start to doesn't matter if we get it exactly where we want it to. And change. Yeah, very cool. And we can even go into the layers tab and lower down the opacity. Get a little bit more subtle. And this could even be done to create like ground shadows. Lower down that opacity and fade it more. Very cool. Now let's grab this. We can go into our stamp. So now what we can also do, let's say for example, let's create it like a layer. We can grab like roof elements. Like these tiled elements. And maybe we'll turn the stroke on. I think we'll create another one the opposite direction here. Yeah, that's cool. And we can come in and do again, we can do some roughing up stuff here. We don't want it to be too rigid, right? We want it to look old and broken. We We can even do it with our line tool. Stroke kind of comes and goes. We can go into our brushes. I think we have stuff that we might be able to. Off. Almost cracked still. App, I believe. Interesting. Yeah, there are. I wonder if we close it and reopen it. Oh, try it again here. Here it is. And let's do some nature here. We have lots of great bushes and whatnot. We can go down onto the debris area here, I think, and to start to put stuff around. Go into our stamp tool. And now with this new system, one of the great things that we can do here is, like one of the things that we used to do is place a lot of objects around and then duplicate the layer. We can still do that. And we can do that in a much broader kind of way. And I demonstrate here in just a moment. Let's place this foliage around. Maybe we'll do one more. So here we have this debris layer. It's got all this stuff on it. So let's duplicate it. Here it goes to the top here. As you see. We can switch over here. So we don't want to duplicate this again. So we can just do that. I'm just going to move it, all of the items down here. Separation there. And what I can do now is I can move each one of these individually. I'm going to put this back down, same kind of area down here. What I can do is I can come in here. We can rotate this around like we would before. Maybe even wash it up here a little bit. Move it wherever we wish. Then I can come in and individually I can even delete people. So let's say I want this one, I can just delete that. And so you can see that we could duplicate this again. How kind of quickly you can build up all of this stuff. Guys, maybe over here. Look at how quickly we can kind of populate all of this stuff in here. Do you guys have any questions so far about any of this stuff, or is there anything that you would like me to further explain with these tools? You know, I think we should do too. Let's do our decoration. Maybe do that. But I'll like, get some nice changes in our texture. I think I do want to come in here though on our roof scale of this. I think. Start that real quick. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely suggest that you guys check it out. It's super fun. As I said, right now there's a little bit of there's some bugs as you've seen, but we're gonna get those all squashed out, hopefully um, within a very short amount of time. We'll get that all going. Once this is solid, it's gonna be unbelievable for sure. I think what we'll do. We can even come into here into our layers tab, right? And we can actually make this different size if we want. We should even maybe add in more kind of debris and whatnot on the top. I think it's in this second one here. All kinds of like trash and stuff. Litter. Perhaps not. Perhaps in this one. Yeah, litter and debris. Hide the roof. Here. See how being able to interact with these things after the fact. Oh, great. Lower down that opacity a little bit. We'll do glass inside here. We'll grab some of the trash bags. Against this wall. We'll grab some of we'll do this on the and see, so something like this, for example, right? Like we can interact with the system, go back into the ruins and go to like our. If I want to move some of this, I always can. Oh, that's interesting. Change where that layer. If I hit Control Z, oh, I can just back in. Maybe we'll do it on the higher level here. Nope, no new effects yet. I need to be here. Now let's grab some trees. And I think what I can do is we can there. I'm gonna do a just color. And we can create some more variations in colors across our. I'm gonna make it brighter. Yellowy. And then we can go. We can mask here. I'll do is hold down Alt so I can just areas out. That's a little bit too bright. This down to something like this. Oh yeah, we've done a lot of elevation stuff. The question is suggestions for elevation changes on maps. So I can kind of pull up some we've worked on before. And make this a little bit more. And then we can do a nice arch kind of shadow on this. And we can even do another layer going in the opposite direction. On give them a little shape. Open area. So yeah, let's have a look at some elevation changes here. In the last bit of time that we have, I think that we have quite a few in this particular campaign here. Um, yeah, so here is one that's got nice little ravine here, and these are kind of like great examples that we can kind of look at, because now with the new system, we can interact with it lots of different ways. Here, down here. So here we have this a multitude of like elements down here. Go into particular areas here. We can kind of see where these interact, and what we can actually do now is manipulate these. Lots of new ways if we want to change the way that these interacted with. This is one that we built on stream a little while ago. But you can see that the way that we sell the elevation is in a couple of different ways. One, we do it with scale and perspectives. We have these large kind of palms up high. So we assume that you're the viewer looking down. And what we actually do is kind of create this false perspective. And what we can actually do is make these things seem larger. As you can see here, we have a lot of smaller kind of elements down here, which makes it feel further away. We also change the colors of things. As you can see, like anything up here is going to have darker shadows than things down here, further and further away. We have a couple of other ones too that we did. And this is one that we did on stream a little while ago as well. And here again, we have this cliff. The cliff kind of gets sold through the use of shadow here, right? So we can see that this down below, again, we've made everything seem a little bit smaller as it's further away from the viewer. And as we get up higher elements here, these rock formations are larger. We have cave entrance here. Then here. We have lots of other examples of this. Let's have a couple of looks here. Well, we have the one that uses it as well. So here is one that we did a long time ago. We did this kind of transition, this like hellish forest. Have lots of these elements kind of fade into here, but over here we created a series of cliffs, and here like a little bit of a plateau. And again, the elevation is sold by these shadows that are being cast by these elements. We can kind of go through and see how the elevation changes. We actually made this little like path coming here. Kind of see how that all interacts. Again, we have ones like This doesn't really have the same sort of impact as the other ones that we did as far as like higher elevations. But what we did is we created little divots through the use of light and shadow. So what we did was created a shadow on one side and a highlight on the other to make these feel as though they're indented. So it's the same kind of practice in other elements there. And you can kind of see this if we look at these adjust colors. You can see here's the highlights, and here is the shadowed elements. See, like if we turn these off, both of these off, how flat it is. Very flat. And this is what tricks your eye into thinking that there is changes in the elevation, even though it is still the same flat. And we did this similar kind of thing, but more subtle on the side here. Oh yeah, got to go back through and change all the different stuff. So inside of here, for example, we made this makeshift kind of throne, and this will be so much easier to do with the new painting tool. And we have the much older map that we had created, but again, same kind of idea. You can see that this is a little bit wonky now. I definitely want to go back in, change some of the stuff. Exactly what this line is here. That's what it was. Lighting. So you can see we can go in and here it is the way that it was intended to be seen. And some of this is a little bit wonky, but we can go back in and fix it now. So if we look at the cliff edge here, we can actually come in and stuff. I will back through and do that. But again, we're using light and shadow to help demonstrate the depth of things, how far things go, how close something is to you, using that in the same way. There is also another one that we did with like a waterfall. And this one also demonstrates much of the same. Excuse me. So if we come in here, you can see that we have just all lights. So in through here, again, we have elevation is determined by the dark shadows underneath. Feel as though it's up off of the. Here we have this nice element along here, all of this shadow. Some of this opacity is a little bit wonky. And the waterfall itself we had set up because there's a like a cave entrance behind it. And then we had this set up so we could. Maybe that's how we did it. a lot of these maps are on the forge, and the rest of them are going to be going up on there shortly. And I was planning on doing it this last week, but I got caught up with all the new changes that are going on and testing a lot. So here again, we did something similar. This one we did a long time ago with the winter map pack first released. And in here we did something similar. We created a nice little cave entrance. And cave is underneath. And we did it in the layers so that we could transition very easily on to the next. Again, the same thing. We build up a shadowy area on this side and presented with much brighter highlights along that edge to create this kind of feeling that there's a cliff along. This is one we did a while ago as well, and again we created a little trench. I'm gonna have to go back in and retest stuff, but as you can see here, same with the wall. In the shadows, we all of those parameters highlight along one side, and there's actually in the Siege art package there is a brush for this. Yeah, here it is. And there's no fill. Basically, you can just kind of pick out trenches along those lines. And now what we can do, and I believe there's been a few other ones as well. We do elevation quite a lot. A lot of these are test elements, putting together art packages. We did this one a little while back. Again, you can see that this is changed a little bit. We'll have to go back in and the elements are a little bit off now. Another test one. Yeah, we have there's a lot there. I believe it's $5 a month or $50 a year, And you get access to every art package that we've released and every one that we will release, as well as all the themes. And I think that we're over 50 art packs now, I believe. More than 10,000 images. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. That's why I'm here. Well, that is a brief overview of the new art tools. So hopefully you guys can jump into the test channel and test it out. Um, Make sure you tell us any of the bugs that you find, any of the feedback, anything that you feel like should be changed, or all of that we take into great considerations. Great, great for you guys to actually jump in there and do that. Um, so we'll be if you guys don't have any other further questions, feel free. I mean, you can throw it into chat, and then we'll kind of wind down here and call it a day. But I can answer any art related questions that you guys might have. Oh yes, Fabled Dice tonight at 9. So you guys check that out. We've done a lot of the one that we did the other day, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited too. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys make as well. When I was testing out the industrial art packages, which by the way, the third installment of that will be coming out this month, as well as Medieval Machine. Oh, what was the first thing I said at the start of the stream? Yeah, you can export any of this as a module, Barrett. The way that it works is that there is no actual image information that's in there. It's just the metadata. So they have to have access to the art packs unless you use your own specific images, and then that will get included into it. And you can put anything that you want to on the Forge that people can download. Yeah, so all you have to do is if you go into your modules, um, you can go to the export button down here. And then as you can see here, you can just drag and drop or add in any sort of images that you wish, fill out the things and export it. All right, guys. Well, if there's no further questions, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. So excited to get back here next week and use these tools. Hopefully we'll have an update by then and get some of these bugs squashed. And what would you like to see for an improvement? So the question is will there be an improvement to the search function? As it stands right now, you can kind of you can do quite a lot with the search function as is. So if I were to be looking up like let's say I wanted to do a specific like wall brush, I can just type that in and all of the wall brushes will come right up. If I know what specifically I'm looking for, I can just kind of like type it in there. And it will be based off of the hierarchy of whatever I'm currently working in. So if I am in a specific area here, let's go into like abandoned places, for example, and I want to look up trash, and I will get all of the elements that are specific like trash. So these are all the trash cans. But if I'm all the way out here and I type in trash, I will get all of the trash elements from all of the different art packs. Oh, so you're looking for in the modules themselves. Or are you talking about specifically the image assets? Yeah, so if you just type in FG, got to be at least 3 characters to do it. So yeah, we can certainly put that in and see about maybe organizing those. Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you next week. I'm here every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and we run until just about 6. And as I said, hopefully we'll be jumping back into using some more of these tools, and we'll have some updates, hopefully, and get some of the bugs squashed. In the meantime, make sure you jump in there and test it out, see what you think. And any sort of feedback, please let us know. We're super interested in what you think of them, and we want to make it the best possible product we can. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you all next time.